Hello, and welcome to Depth Perception. We discuss movies and dive into how films direct the way we experience them. We create a perception of sound, a perception of sight, with a dimension of mind. We move into a land of both shadow and substance, of themes and ideas. I am Mr. Vosley, joined by the Tin Man.
Hello.
And the Pin Man, K-Max.
Hey!
That's pretty cool. They call him Mr. 800 downtown.
Downtown Julie Brown. That's awesome.
So, shout out, we are recording on the most holiest of days, May the 4th. This tree is a symbol of the spirit of the Griswold family Christmas. Episode 11 of Season 2 is brought to you by the 2024 Academy Award-nominated documentary Sugarcane. Sugarcane follows select Indigenous people as they deal with the lasting effects of the mistreatment from the residential schools across North America. A little bit of a different episode here for us. This is our first documentary and I think all of Depth Perception, and thus it is no longer a work of fiction. So we're going to treat this a little bit differently, and definitely with some more sincerity, we'll say, than we normally do. Because this is a movie where the people are real, the lives are real, and the events are real. And obviously this comes with a little bit more weight in the subject matter. So like we said, we'll do our best to treat it with the respect it deserves. Our talking points for today include similarities to our own community, universal hardships, and why are they so substantial in day-to-day life, especially for Native communities. How do we see people coping, and is this also universal? What made us proud to see in this movie? And that's a callback to our first Indigenous Representation episode. And instead of our usual theme discussion, we're going to instead talk about our own personal takeaways from this movie. So I first watched this, I guess this past week, Tuesday or Wednesday maybe. Just the one time. I think once was enough to get what they were presenting to me. How about you guys? When did you see it?
The first time I saw it was this week. Well, I say the day before we were going to record. So we were going to record Friday. Mm-hmm. Must have been Thursday then. Thursday's the first time, and then again on Friday night when we didn't record, I watched it again and trailed off to sleep.
I watched it once while I was at work, so I was half distracted, half being able to buzz through sections of it, so I got what was going on, and then I went back and watched it again. So I got it 1.5 times. Okay. I'd count it as 1.5 times.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I know I didn't put this in the agenda, but any initial reactions to what you saw?
It's hard to watch. Mm-hmm. It's hard to see. I think, it probably bleeds into similarities. You can see some of the people, the characters there, and you can, like we said before in the other films, every reservation and every territory has their Tin Man, and everyone has their boss, and
their multiverse of
and the hard thing is seeing these hurting people and seeing those same hurtful looks on families' faces. Mm-hmm. That's hard, and it again, I hate to check my reference at the door, but I'll be doing that tonight, which is a reach for me. It's a universe I don't exist in, mm-hmm. But I don't want to disrespect the hurt and the legacy of these places, and I don't want to disrespect any of the memories of the people who passed in those places, those shallow graves. But all I have is my own perception, so let's give it a shot.
Yep. How about you, Tin Man?
So we grew up kind of understanding that residential schools were rough on natives in their communities. We have a few in our community. Some of them are still alive some of them went to Carlisle, some went to Thomas. There's one at Thomas Indian Schools from Cattaraugus. And Some of their experiences were varied coming from them, so I didn't know how much validity there was to how bad it was. I know that they like directly had told me like, yeah, they cut our hair and they told us we spoke our language, we were beaten, our mouths were washed out with soap, stuff like that. And I was like, okay, because that's why Tuscarora has such a hard time keeping its language. It's because there was whole generations of people who were like, well, if we teach you this language, you're going to get beat for it. So it was like distinct at why it's such a hard thing to keep now. But what was going on that they were able to like prove and uncover in the movie was like kind of way beyond what I thought. How bad I kind of had the idea how bad it was, but it's like, nope, here it is, proof, and it was kind of that way all over the place. It's like, okay, I guess
it wasn't just like in Sugarcane; it's like
Right.
everywhere. And I know it was made in Canada, but it wasn't just Canada. It was
Right.
like North America.
Yeah.
And this is just indigenous North America. That's not saying, this system was out in other countries and continents even,
And it's just for educators, there's a nice resources on the Sugarcane movie website of that teachers can get handouts and educational tools and a map in North America of all the residential schools that were present. You can click on them and it can interact with. It's pretty interesting.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So I was kind of in the same boat as Tin Man, where you kind of, even in our own conversations, you kind of got a glossed over version of what happened there. And then, movies like this came out, and we had a local filmmaker involved in another project that was kind of the similar thing. And you realize how bad it actually was, what some people had to actually go through. And, this movie had firsthand accounts of people describing what they were seeing, and both native and non-native. They had, the janitor or something, unaware of how he was helping these people, put babies in incinerators. And so, like K-Max said, pretty tough watch. And I think that's why I only watched it the one time. I got the information, and I think that was enough for me. K-Max, you kind of touched on it a little bit, but similarities to our community. Tin Man, what did you see?
The way that the elders would talk about that stuff was very hesitant and like they would give you little detail, and then only when they felt comfortable or they had someone else with them that had experienced something like that, then they would give them more to the story. Like you wouldn't hear, they were just like, oh, it was bad. Yeah, oh, yeah. Like you wouldn't hear much. And then only after them feeling comfortable about talking, they're like, yeah, I was abused sexually. And then I told my family, and then they beat me for it. Then I told so-and-so, and then it got swept under the rug. Then I turned to alcohol. Like that was her, like, that was the course of her life went. But it seems like there would be something like that would come up, and then it would almost be shameful to bring it up. So they would be like, you'd get hit for talking about it, and then try to cover it back up.
That's the similarity that I see in our community is any abuse, not just within residential schools, but like abuse. If it's talked about, someone doing something inappropriate or anything, it's like, oh, we don't talk about that. And then you almost make the victim, it's like double jeopardy. They get victimized all over again.
Yeah.
Because now all of a sudden you're the bad guy, and you speak out about it, and it's like, this is going to be harmful to the family. And, that's why it's such a hard and sobering conversation, because, that stuff stays with you. And I know we'll talk more about that later. That stuff stays with you. And the more it's covered up and not dealt with, it seems like you can't heal at that. It seems like you're just you can't heal, and it's the victim that has to carry the weight, the baggage of that, that can't heal and can't move past it. And, it's close to home for all of us, because we have family members. I don't think we have common ancestry. I know we do a little bit, like with, certain folks, you hear them, you see them, they're like the most lighthearted people on the res, you know, and they're just laughing all the time, whatever. And you think about some of the things and you hear the stories about what they had to endure, and you're like, I know my grandmother being one of them. I remember thinking, oh my goodness, you know, this. I got no problems.
Right.
I got no ground to.
I live a fairy tale rainbow life.
Yeah,
here,
honest to goodness, boy. You know, some of those things, and as a parent, then even more hurtful. Let alone surviving it yourself, but as a parent, watching your kid get taken. And I guess there's some historical things I want to talk about in a little bit. Like the similarity to Tuscarora it seems like every territory, sadly, in North America has similar stories as Sugarcane. Mm-hmm. That's the shameful part, that we all carry that. We all carry that weight. Or we all have a choice on how we carry it, I guess, is what I'll say.
I'll say this, too, because I think that there's a lot of how natives handle situations like that. A lot of it is like, pick up your lip, you know, like knock it off. You don't need to, you want the rest of us to be sad with you, kind of thing. Like, hey, it sucks, get over it. Like, that's kind of how they handle stuff. But at a certain level, you can't handle it like that. And so it becomes I don't know, like a cancer that grows that they can't just wipe it off, you know. Can't just pick up your lip, can't just, hey, knock it off, cut it out. Hey, toughen up, you know. You get that a lot. Especially with like boys, like you'll see that with like I can just relate to boys easier because you'll see it from other reses and you know, some kid got hurt and cried, so the dad punched him for crying, you know, kind of thing. Yeah. And like, okay, like I get it a little bit, but that solving everyone whining about something problem is like a thing we do all over the place. And sometimes I think members aren't equipped to handle or don't know how to handle someone that is really hurting, how to handle it. So it's almost like, shut up with that. Yeah. You know, so it gets like swept away. So that's someone turns to alcohol, someone turns to drugs, someone turns to sex, someone turns to suicide. Yeah. Suicide's a huge thing. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know if that's part of the culture mixing with this, mixing with that. Like there's not a way to handle it in the new age of natives on reservations. How do you handle the life that's now brought to you that wasn't the way of life before, you know? I don't know.
It's interesting too because the fathers or the parents or the grandparents that you see saying, you know, knock it off, or, you know, give them a little smack or something, you'll hear stories after the fact of what they had to go through. So they're living with pain as they're doing that. Yeah. You know, so it's kind of almost like, well, I had to endure it, so you're going to endure this little, you dropped your ice cream, so I'm going to smack you for, you know. But one scene stuck out to me. So, because I don't drink, and I don't condemn anyone that does, but it's just that I've seen so much.
That's how we're still friends. No, sorry. I'm sorry.
But
this is Tin Man talking.
You know, it's a personal thing for me because of how much I saw it tear apart families growing up, or stories I heard of some of my ancestry getting torn apart, or things happening in families, you know, that I just don't even want to entertain the idea of it happening in my own family. But there was a scene, there's three, and let me know if you guys remember this, there's three middle-aged people, and they're harmless, but they're clearly intoxicated, and they're just kind of, you know, swaying back and forth with each other outside and hanging out. You know, I think one of them had a cigarette in their hand or something. But it was just the idea that it's just a run-of-the-mill evening, and these people are outside just drunk, three people together with nothing else better to do. And that scene stuck out because I know that came from some sort of pain, some sort of trauma, some sort of burden that's on their head that they need to escape that. And you know, just the way that they're carrying themselves right there, that's not a one-time occurrence. That's probably every night, you know, that these people are getting together and doing that. And that group right there, you can see, like you said, versions of that in every community. So you here we have Green Road. So for listeners, it's just a road on the res that's where people go and they just drink or they socialize and whatever they do there. And that was kind of the sense I got from this group right here, and that stuck out because I see that everywhere too. Just people, nothing constructive to do other than to drink away their mind, you know?
Yeah, well, I remember that scene and thinking about the time I used to run a lot, and I'd always run the Green Road. You know what I mean? It's just a peaceful road. There's no traffic.
Right.
But you're going to find traffic. You're going to find some foot traffic.
Right.
People drinking and smoking or whatever down there. And, you know, it was almost like an accepted thing, you know, Green Road, right? You know, Green Road. And,
yeah, it was almost like an identity. Like, oh, yeah, that's just part of the res.
Yeah. I can remember someone came in from Pekin, had some four-wheelers stolen, and they came in the church on a Sunday morning hollering and yelling about, you people, you know, you people, again, you guys need to. And I remember being one of the ushers talking to him. I said, friend, if you want to maybe find someone that might have stolen that, you probably won't want to check the church right now. Maybe Green Road, or, you know. But I also said, you know, it just made me think to myself that if you travel, and I played music in a couple bands, and we've gotten the chance to play a lot of territories across the country, and there's spots like that, I guess it stands to reason, right? If there's similar shared trauma, you're going to have some similar Band-Aids and similar experiences. And sadly, you know, this is maybe a more macro thing for Indian country. The things that we relate to, there's some very beautiful cultural things that we can relate to when we see a film. Even Thunderheart and those kind of movies. Like, oh yeah, it makes us feel special. Smoke Signals even, yeah. But I feel like the things that we relate to more are like the drunken uncle, or the one guy sitting there, the guy that, you know, the car that's driving down wobbly down the road, and we're like, you know, it's almost laughable, and you're like, these are hurting people.
Right.
And not only hurting people, but people doing some very reckless things. And then, you know, but it's almost a universal, like, language type of things that we see across Indian country and Canada too, that they struggle with. And it's like, those are things that we relate to when we talk about them.
Yeah, because I think it's just weird kind of looking at it, because you see like an older woman who's native who's drunk. It seems like there's something wrong with her, or she's got something going on. If you see an older white lady drinking, it seems like that's just part of being social.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, I don't know. I've gotten my car had stalled out on Mount Hope, so I had to walk down Green Road, and I got roped into a bonfire. It looks like Jimmy over there walking. We'll jump your car for you, but you got to hang out for a few. Oh no, they're gonna get me.
No, seriously, I mean, and the thing is too is that I always want to handle it delicately, because I'm not condemning anybody or anything.
Right.
On my best and worst days, I'm far worse than most folks. The rumors are all true, you know. I'm not. It's not an indictment on people that spend that, but I think it stands to reason to. Why are there spots like that across Indian country and the whole continent?
Yeah, I have heard this though. I have heard someone say it's nice that you guys have on your res. You have it all in one spot. It's not wherever they feel like tonight. Yeah. I've had someone tell me that before. Someone from another res that was just like, oh, they stay in their own spot? I'm like, yeah. No, they're like, that's nice. That's good that they don't decide to, oh, it's your backyard tonight they want to go to.
Just wherever.
And I was like, oh, okay. It's like that other reses? They're like, yeah, it's nice. They're actually respectful of everyone else. They go to fields where there's nothing but crops and nothing, and it's away from everyone. I'm like, well, I guess that's
Yeah.
I guess that's something.
And if I'm being honest, I've been helped more than I've been hurt
Yeah,
by folks.
I got my trucks jumped. They jumped my truck after it stalled. They really did.
If I can be honest about it, but you know what I mean. When to Vaz's point though, I think just those three folks in the film, when you see them, there was a helplessness there, a hopelessness there among them. That this is just my lot in life.
Right.
This is how I cope. We talk about folks, miss thank yous and Unimart and the little Quickie Mart in Sanborn and the places that they're just regular spots, And I'll go get a month's worth of refreshment there in one box, and someone gets an evening's worth of refreshment there. That, to me, and another thing to Vaz's point, like the fear of that's something that stayed with me also. I was 30 years old before I had my first sip of alcohol. 30, I was just really terrified of it, and then still very moderate. I mean, food's my thing, but still very, very, very moderate with it.
I'll second that.
Yeah, but just like food, it's very moderate because of that fear of seeing and hearing the stories, and I'm like, that seems like a risky little game.
Yeah,
some people get involved in it, and it takes them farther than they probably plan on going. I'm guessing,
So, I feel like we've touched into the next subject as well, but so universal hardships. So specifically, if you want to say universal hardships, you can say abuse at the hands of the Catholic Church. You had movies like Spotlight that drew attention to this, and I'm sure there's plenty of other films and documentaries and news and all that called out the church for covering things up and having people perform actions that they shouldn't be performing, we'll say.
Absolutely.
And but I think even less specific than that. So to a general audience, you had hardships that could be shared by a lot of people watching this movie. So father-son relationship, with our main storyteller here and his own father, the idea of being an unwanted child, which was, again, our storyteller, but I think you see it in a couple of different places with characters, or with people, I should say, seeking parental love and acceptance. That was our storyteller as well, but again, you saw that with so many other people in this movie that they just want love from somewhere, and you can see that condensed in this was an hour and 40 minutes or so. But you can move into mental health and substance abuse. We've already touched on that. Not becoming like your parents or your father. Again, our main storyteller being exploited by institutions. And we've talked quite a bit about that already during this season of the podcast. And trauma, not just from outside entities like the institutions, but within. So, and certainly there's accounts of it from our own community, but, families with abuse within the family, and, families or people abusing other families. So, you can't really point to the Catholic Church and say, "Oh no, they made me do it. That's their fault." So that's trauma like that happens, that the audience can see it, and hopefully not too many people, but there some people are going to watch that and relate to those stories too. And you had some, for lack of a better term, existential questions, I guess, with people just wondering why them. So like the father figure in the movie that was, he's the lucky one. He's the garbage kid or whatever he was referred to in the news. Why did I survive? Like, why am I here? Empty apologies from institutions that will never be held accountable. And of course, fractured families. So throughout the movie, you see everyone, parents aren't together, or a parent abandoned them, or they abandoned their child, or child was abducted, child was murdered, all sorts of different types of fractures to families in the movie. And you could see a whole bunch of that within our community, with other communities I see. Like I'll go to other reses, and they'll be like, oh no, they're not married. This guy's got kids by, so and so and so and so, and there's, these people are half brothers and half sisters here, and you don't know who's who, and the dad never is at this place, he's at that place, he's on another res. So all sorts of just fractured families that can't be good for mental health. There's no way that does anybody any good in having a mess like that, But that's a universal hardship. All of these things I have listed, these aren't exclusive to Native communities. These can be viewed by your standard audience, and they may be able to connect with each of these things that are causing pain to the people in the movie.
That's right.
Any thoughts on those?
Well, I feel like the church thing, with parish and priests and things, certainly non-Native folks. I thought a very brave Pete Gallivan, the morning show on Channel 2, admitted to abuse that he endured as an altar boy, whatever, in the Catholic Church. And just far too many to name and number.
Mm-hmm.
And I always feel, there's no other term but to say sick to my stomach, that people would use against the most vulnerable of people, first of all, with the most precious of messages, to do such horrible things.
Right.
If I can kind of summarize how I'm feeling right now. Because, I am nowhere near perfect. I try to live a reflection of my faith as often as I can. Mixed review. And the main thing of that is to reflect who you want people to know, right? So, my idea of faith is I want people to see God or Christ, and that's a passion. So when I'm a poor reflection of that, it's it's a rough thing, because no one's going to get to see the truth or see the hope that I have in this source, this person. And then I think of someone using that same precious message to control and manipulate and to even abuse. It's disgusting. I'm not virtue signaling here. This is just fact. We all accept. This is absolutely true. But Native folks aren't the only people who have been touched by that. So you have a lot of folks. I have a dear friend who's Native. And he was adopted and lived in outside a community at the reservation, and we're great friends, but I can't help but feel like he resents me every day that I'm a Christian, because he sees all that hurt in me. And I have a hard time telling him to get over it or judging him for it, because he sees the reason for my faith, the reason for my hope, is being the one who let that happen to him, the person who represented him in that church, the priest, doing those things to him. And then, as a Christian, I can easily say, well, God didn't do that to you. You know what I mean? And no, my God does not condone that, is not about that. But then I look at the human level too. It doesn't change the truth that my God isn't that kind of God. But it also helps me understand his hurt, this person's hurt. To say, I get the bitterness, I get the resentment. I get why he might even be bitter toward me. And why have some resentment toward me, or question everything about me. And And that's not unique to Native folks. That's everybody that's had to face that. That's a huge black eye, and worldwide in some ways. When you look at the numbers speak for themselves. It's not guess data. It's becoming more and more empirical data. It's super awful, and I have my soapboxes about accountability for those people, and I have my soapbox issues about what you do moving forward, and how do you then, if you have this precious message of hope, how do you share that, full well knowing how people have corrupted that message for their own good? But that's not a new thing, though. I mean, Columbus was masterful at it,
Yeah.
and others. But again, none of that changes the person or the source. In my book, right? So, what's it? What do I do then? I've had people ask me that. Oh, how can you even believe that? How can you? And people in our own community, like, the atrocities done to our people in the name of God, and I don't sit there and try to say no, that didn't happen, or try to justify it, because there's no justifying it. There's no condoning it or justifying it, obviously. I mean, that's an easy one. And I just say, people do bad things. People do.
Right.
People do. And behind flags, behind crosses, behind ideologies, and people do self-serving, bad, evil things, and hide behind certain things. And I mean, all I can do as a human being with that belief system is to reflect the source better, far better than those people did, and far truer than those people did. And it's a very, very, very important thing to me, and I want to love those people who have been hurt a ton, and I want to respect them, and I want to hear them and see them. And I want them to see who they were supposed to see when these people let them down grossly and disgustingly let them down. Right. They didn't represent the God that I know.
Right.
Not a bit. So anyway, that's my 2 cents on that.
Tin Man, what are your thoughts on how universal these?
I mean, he said quite a bit. I think that's exactly what I was thinking when I saw these questions come up. And that's the thing, is like we put our faith in a person, not in a church, right?
Mm-hmm.
The church itself has been responsible for a lot of hardships, like inquisitions or Salem witch trials or blah 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 over history.
I mean, you're talking centuries and centuries of wrongdoings in the
misguided
name of
humans trying to use Christ as a vehicle to hurt, to empower, to manipulate, to control.
Mm-hmm.
And we have our little corner of the universe that we can kind of add what we can to it. And if it means that people see us as being representatives of what it really means, then we're doing our part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all you can do is control your radius.
Yeah, this little wedge, little slice of the world that we have. Yeah.
So what I think the documentary does well is present a topic that maybe isn't all that inclusive, so not everyone is going to be able to comprehend how much of an impact was made on the indigenous people that went through residential schools, nor how evil that treatment actually was. However, once that topic is presented, the topic of the residential schools, the filmmaker, I feel like, draws the audience in with relatable traumas so that an audience can begin to see why indigenous people feel the way they do, or think the way they do, or act the way they do. Because it all seems to stem from that same source, from that specific trauma of an entity trying to limit your culture and who you are as a people. So I feel like the general audience can start to relate to those traumas and feel the collective pain that all the people on the screen that we see are feeling.
Yeah. I didn't realize that was happening until you said that, and I'm thinking that is pretty masterful documentary creating to make sure that you're appealing to the broader audience.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't even aware that was happening.
Now, what are you guys' thoughts on why that's why these hardships are so substantial in day-to-day life for Native communities? Not saying that it isn't for other communities, but I mean, we see it firsthand. You know, we can point down the street and say, "Oh, this person did that," or "This happened there," and you know, like we said, this road is where people go to do this. You know,
Yeah.
So why do we think it's so prevalent in our day-to-day lives? Maybe not personally, but you know, our collective our.
I think I hate to keep ramming, but I think that it's a function of a bigger picture of generations of just disrespect, of like dehumanizing us and you know, marginalizing us on purpose. And these aren't guesses. This isn't a guess or an opinion. This isn't a you know, you have federal legislation to, you know, dehumanize us and then maybe try to civilize us. They maybe save the man, kill the Indian. You know, you look at these policies on Indian country from this occupying force, and these words are written in their handbook legislation. Like, how do we do this? How do we eradicate? How do we, you know, civilize? How do we? Because when you use terms like that, man, those things affect generations. You know, and I'm no expert on any of this stuff. I'm a history teacher, so, and I'm a person, so I have a little bit of experience with working with history and looking at it and studying it to avoid bad things and keep doing things that work, things that are good. Work with state and local governments, like studying those, how they work, how those dynamics work in communities. And you think, I think that the reason why they're so broad to us and they hit us so heavy, all these things, is because not only with residential schools, but like, you know, Indian Removal Act and just the way that we've been relocated and displaced and just treated as if we were just like wildlife, like to be handled. Like, you know, we have a problem here. We got to move them out of this area. We've got to move them out of this area. And then, you know, trying to find your identity and all that, trying to find your roots and trying to hold on to your culture and your language with all that being pulled. And then like almost like the final, sadly to say, it's not the final nail. The final nail, like institutional, was education. Like how do we then take this next generation and erase all their culture and language and, you know, ceremonies, all those. How do we eradicate that? Here's how we do it, and we're going to replace it with this, you know. And the shameful role that Canada and America had in that, the governments had in that, you know, giving funding for it, and then, you know, training people, you know, and allowing the churches, the different denominations, to staff these buildings, you know, with their agendas, and because they're thinking, well, if they're gonna teach them their ideals, that's gonna fly in contradiction to their regular belief systems. So yeah, we'll take that, you know. And again, so there again, it's, to me, that's universal for my experience, because then I can see why people resent people who believe like I do, because it's the same. You know, it's the same ploy. It's like, oh, you go to the church. Well, that's, you know, the church was originally set up for this. And like, yeah, you know, I'm glad you're interested in history. Let's find out what God's purpose was for the church. Let's find out what God's purpose and calling was for the church. If we want to look at the history, let's dig further back. Let's even be more authentic, and let's dig further back in history, beyond when Europeans and colonial powers started using it for their own benefit. and for power and control. Anyway, I get pulled into the history of it instead of the.
Well, I think that's important though, because this colonization isn't just, it doesn't start with America. It doesn't start with Canada. You can look back hundreds and hundreds of years and say, this empire, that empire, these people are wiped out because of this and taught that instead. And if you weren't going to learn how we do things, then we kill you. Mm-hmm. So you can see that happen throughout history. So I think it's important that you bring up the idea of history in this, because that's how universal these things are. Mm-hmm. It's just that we still happen to be here is all.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And that's such a huge thing. We're very much here.
So Tin Man, what are your thoughts on why these hardships hit Native communities so much?
There's so much common between Native res. You can go to another res and then just find random guys and tell jokes that are similar, that'll nail here, and they'll mm-hmm. Whatever reason, I can always find a similar sense of humor across Native country, mm-hmm. anywhere we go. Mm-hmm. But how everyone internalizes and handles problems, stresses, and traumas seems to be very similar. And there's a big difference between, if you go off the res, sometimes there's like family, you talk to someone, go, hey, who's your first cousin? They're like, I don't know, I see him on Christmas once in a while. Mm-hmm. Where I can go see my first cousin every day of the week. My second mm-hmm. and third cousins are like sometimes your brothers and sisters.
Right here. I'm sitting right here.
Yeah. And like if someone dies or gets hurt, or, something bad happens to them, you kind of see all the fallout of it. You're carrying it with them. Mm-hmm. If you go off the res and your neighbors, mother dies, you don't notice it one bit.
Right.
It ain't a thing.
I always see, like in movies, whenever they show a funeral scene, there's like 10 people at the funeral.
Right.
I'm like, not any funeral I've been to on the res. There's, dozens and, in some cases, hundreds of people that show up for it.
Yeah. Yep.
See, we hurt big and collectively, but I think we love big too and collectively. That's one thing I'm seeing, even though we're divided on a lot of things. When bad things happen, we tend to rally. Mm-hmm. Remember your grandma? What did she say? I don't know if she would joke all the time. The stuff she always cracked me up. Like Grandma Carolyn would be like, "Someone make the potato salad," or get someone make something about that. She would always make that comment whenever someone was sick. She go. I remember her saying, "Oh, we got to start making the potato salad or something." And I didn't know what it meant. And I remember I asked her. I said, "What does that mean?" She goes, "Oh, it's just an old saying." I'm like, "What's that mean?" She goes, well, and when someone dies or passes, you take potato salad over to their house. I said, "Is that your term?" She goes, "Well, it's not a term. I didn't want it to be."
Oh, I got to find a way to spin that.
I know. We're going to have to bring it up now.
I know what.
Someone's going to be coughing and be like, "Well, I'll go start making potato salad."
I can't remember who said it. I know that your grandma said it once, though, and I remember laughing and thinking, man, oh, man. Yeah, I mean, with all these hurts, though, that the communities have had to endure, I think some of the sweetest human beings I've ever met are survivors of these residential schools.
Yeah.
My grandmother being one of them was, how she coped with it, man. You would catch her crying herself to sleep at night sometimes, and you'd see her sleeping, and she'd be moving, and like you could see the trauma like bubbling under the surface for her. And the main scary part was seeing her, cousins get taken in a different direction, and they're all going at first. They're excited. They're all had clean clothes on, and some families were like, "Well, this is better than what I can do for you." So it's I'm going to send you because, and then some families there'd be commodities that were held back by the government if you didn't send them, almost like how they would hold your federal funding for districts now. Well, if you don't comply, you don't get the funding. And so you're telling these families that are already impoverished, you're not going to be able to get these services if you don't send your kids here. Mm-hmm. So it's like I can't imagine, we're love you guys because you guys are great dads. And so I can't imagine, my kids at that young age, 6, going out to school with their little, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't imagine it. I can't imagine I'm now at 19 and 16. Oh, gosh.
So I my thoughts, I guess, on why these hardships hit us so hard in our communities, I've got a few different thoughts. So one of them is resources. So if you go off the reserve, there are offices, there's people, there's specialists that can deal in these traumas that our people don't know about, that we just don't have in our own community and aren't aware of off the res help. So if you go off the res, we talked about how universal these hardships can be. The people off the res might be able to get linked with those a little bit better than our own people. Because you also have, even if we're aware of it, there's people that aren't going to be trusted, or they're not going to trust those institutions, right? They're going to, they want to stay in-house with people they know, and not, if their trauma is stemmed from the people they're told to go see for help, you can see why they may not go get the help.
Yeah, seriously.
Right.
But also, I feel that we kind of talked a little bit about this in Thunderheart, or that episode, where if you, I mentioned if you took the whole United States and condensed it to, a fraction of the land, how much turmoil there would be. I feel like you get a similar thing here where these traumas are magnified because these communities are so condensed, so the things that we all share, all the pains that people share are all, it becomes a interconnected web of pain that people share, and I feel like that only amplifies it.
Yeah, you saying that in the movie too, in Sugarcane, when they're all in that kind of talking, and they feel like they have a safe spot now, and they're sharing it. And it's like every story seemed to get worse and worse and worse, and it almost like gained momentum. Like, oh,
I also feel like faith has a play in here too, not just a Christian faith, but if you are more traditional and have more of a faith in your traditional beliefs, sometimes, I know in tough spots personally, I'll lean on my faith and pray, and the same goes for our neighbors in our own community, but it's just a different God, we'll say.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes that comes into play too, where maybe your faith isn't the strongest, or you're not practicing, you're not as focused as you should be in your own faith to provide a base for yourself, to center yourself.
Yeah, I think that's a huge thing, because I see people that cope across the spectrum on the reservation, the different faiths, and some people, very healthy healing process because they're accessing all those resources. The people that will guide them along their way there, and the discipline that comes with it too, of having a, for lack of a better term, consistent prayer life on their, how they do it, engaging in those things more regularly. And so
in terms of the movie, there's a couple instances, and I think there's an example from each side here. You had what's the main storyteller's name, so I can keep not referring to him as just the main storyteller.
Noise Cat.
Noise
last
Cat.
name.
Yeah. Julian.
Yeah. Julian.
Julian. Yeah. So they have the scene where he's dancing, and he's saying how much he enjoyed getting back into it, and he wins first place, and like how much joy and pride that brought him. And I feel like that was a way that he was able to rely on his beliefs a little bit more, and strengthen himself, And if you go on the other side, the former chief, is it Rick? Was it Rick?
I think so.
Rick Gilbert. So he remained a Christian, you know, and I think you can interpret different ways how the strength of his faith throughout the documentary. But to me, I think that he strengthened it when he visited the Vatican, to get refocused, I guess, and the reason why he kept that faith.
Yeah.
Because he's a pretty stoic guy. So at times it's hard to get a good read on him. But I think that he seemed to strengthen and remind himself why he believes what he believes by doing that. And so I think that was two instances on opposite sides of each other where it's people going back to their beliefs and back to their faith for strength. And two more things I got on why these hardships affect natives so much. One is that we're not far removed from these pains. The people that are in this documentary are firsthand accounts of what happened. They're not, oh yeah, 5 generations ago they went through this and that. It's someone giving a firsthand account of, oh yeah, I remember they grabbed the baby and they threw them in, and I was down there by the incinerator. Like, these are pains that are not, they're still fresh wounds yet on many of these people. So to be just one generation removed from it isn't enough time, I would say, to help heal these wounds. They're still fresh. So we talk about being stuck in the past, interpret that how you will. I know there's a few different interpretations that even we have of that statement. But I think that you kind of get a fresh perspective on that when you realize how close we are to the things that happened in that movie. And the other thing I have for this effect is something that I already kind of mentioned, in that a fractured family, a less structured family, a less conventional family, there can't be that much support. Or, I mean, if your father isn't around, your mother isn't around, or whoever isn't around, that's not a whole lot of support for a young, growing mind to have in the home. Especially if the minds of those parents are distracted by hurts and pains of the past. There's no way that adolescent person with all these hormones going off feels completely supported when their parents aren't there. And that one isn't, you can't look back on, in my thoughts anyway, you can't look back and say, oh no, the church did this to us, so now I'm a terrible father. To me, that's not an excuse. So if you have a child, you be a parent, you do what you're supposed to do and be there for your child to help raise the next generation. So that's a bit of a different take on what we've been discussing, but and probably one that maybe it's unintended, maybe it is intended, that you get from the movie with Julian chasing his father down and asking him, hey, why'd you abandon me? Like, why? I need to know exactly why you weren't there for me. And I think that's a important message kind of hidden within the movie is, all right, if you're a parent, if you're helping to raise someone, if you're trying to be a member of your own Native community, be a member of your own Native community and treat it right, So that was my little
I thought
spiel.
It was really good. I don't know. I think we'll probably circle around to it again, but that idea of accountability, regardless of circumstance, is a big thing.
Yeah. So coping. Again, a lot of these topics are going to flow right into another. But how do we see people coping in this movie, and is it universal? Because I know we've talked about the substance use. We've talked about the drinking, the day drinking with the three elders or the middle-aged people outside. Did we see any other ways of coping?
Well, the one chief, was like a devout Catholic.
Mm-hmm. Rick.
So it seemed like he was the product of abuse.
Yeah.
He was directly, his mother was
Even he didn't want to believe it either.
Yeah.
He's like, I need more proof.
Yeah.
We did the DNA test. I need more proof.
And they could tell his wife was like, it's right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yay! See, we got your background. I was like, this woman.
You're 49% or 48% this.
And she pointed at the guy.
Yeah.
She's like, that guy.
Yeah.
Maybe calm that down a little bit. Guy's having you could just see on his face the hurt of realizing his own origin, and she's just like, see, I told you.
Wives.
Foreshadowing for one of our future episodes on marriage.
Hey, you see some. I saw a couple healthy ways of coping. I seen them when they were dancing. I thought that is a way of coping. You know what I mean? It's like you dig in, you lean into, the things that
Your core.
you lean into your core. You lean into who you are, and not maybe who they told you were, or you lean into. For me, be leaning into a little bit of both. I would lean into who I am within my tribe. You know what I mean? I'd lean into my community. I think we do a good job of that. You need that support. You lean into your friends, a clan league. You go play some ball with your buddies. And there's a certain amount of, I don't want to get too deep, but healing when you're playing with your friends from the reservation. Because I play in I have played. I'm going to use a lot of past tense. I'm an old man. I've played with a lot of teams and a lot of things outside of the reservation, and there's something about playing with your guys from home that just feels like. And it's not just lacrosse, it's basketball and other things too. Part of that team, that collective effort is a beautiful thing. And I just know that with, and then some people dance. You see people dance, and you can see them feeling proud of themselves, and you can see them having that sense of community. And, they're playing the drum, and then, Jordan or someone singing in the Grove, and you just see that everybody stands a little bit taller and smiles on faces, and, there's some lighthearted jokes and everybody can relate. And it's that sense of community, that sense of pride of people saying, this is who we are. And this is, we have a lot going for us. And it's a neat thing to see, And I feel that same way at church, hymn sings when churches get together, a fellowship, and community members. It's like you see people carrying each other and being okay to be emotional and saying, I got you. I'm praying for you.
I think that conversation that Julian has with his dad is that sounds like it's a conversation that was supposed to happen 20, 30 years ago that he wanted to have.
Yeah.
Right.
And that it was out of being uncomfortable or being pleasant or being whatever that conversation didn't happen.
Yeah.
And that, hey, I'm doing a documentary. It's all this stuff going on. He was involved. Okay, well, let's dig it all up. We're digging up the past. We're gonna, there's a P under the 37 mattresses we have, and it's not getting any better. No matter how many mattresses we stack on top of this thing.
Yeah.
So, we're gonna have to Princess and the P this thing, and we're gonna have to dig them all out to get to that. Let's get to the bottom of this as best we can.
And the dad was so hesitant. You can see why. There's shame there. There's, there's.
I'm going to have to admit what happened to me on camera?
That's it. When you start
Yeah.
peeling the onion.
Not just to my fellow community members, but on camera to the world, I have to admit what happened to me?
Yeah.
But
sorry.
I was going to say, I think one of the biggest coping strategies that we see is just the filmmaking in general. This filmmaker that has this pain of, he didn't have this connection with his father, and he's documenting what's going on as he's reconnecting with him. Just this idea of being able to document this personal journey he has, because he wasn't in the residential schools like his father was, but he was part of a broken family. And so his coping is making this movie. I mean, that's, to me, that's the whole existence of this thing was, yes, he's showing what happened at these residential schools and its impact on the Native community that he's in, but it stemmed from him. You know, the first scene is him calling his dad, right? Like,
Yeah.
He's on the phone because he's at the mission.
He's like, guess
hey, guess
you
where I'm at.
guess where I'm at, yeah. So the whole thing starts with him trying to find a connection with his father. Like, why is my father the way he is? Well, I'm at the mission. Here's a good place to start.
Yeah.
So I think that was that's a coping strategy that might be missed, but I think it's a pretty important one.
And it even like talks about the avoidance and like the lies that people tell themselves. Not that are mean lies, but remember when he tells him, he goes, hey, I'm up here. He goes, yeah, I've been meaning to get up there. He goes, yeah. You know, like,
right.
you know, you have. How many chances you said you're going to get up here? You know what I mean? And so I thought that was masterful. Caveat from me, I always feel like when there's a documentary, I feel like sometimes the information gets skewed a little bit, like what you see on the screen, because you can't change the fact that you're being filmed and you're aware of it. You know what I mean? And I felt bad sometimes in this for the dad.
Yeah, the being filmed variable is always present.
It's a powerful thing. Yeah. And if there's a camera on us right now, there might, I talk a little different. I'm trying to be as authentic and ingenuous as I can, as genuine as I can here. But because we're being recorded for public consumption, I'm a little more careful. I'm a little more guarded with my words, and I try to still be authentically me. But it's a little different than if we were just talking with no mics rolling right now.
Less F-bombs, I get it.
Yeah, you know me. I'm a constant stream of it.
Well, I think that's important too, because the father figure, especially, like, the guy's like, so why'd you leave me as a kid? And like shove the camera in his face.
Yeah.
I guess I'm just a big jerk.
Yeah.
Right. So I think
I would add this too, is that this film being consumed by other people around the area and being from Native communities does show that it's see people handling it, talking about it, trying to
normalize it.
Yes, exactly right. Yeah, exactly right. I think that in and of itself would be a coping.
Mm-hmm. That's true. That's true
for others.
I mean, I think that's why movies like this, documentaries like this, are important for our own people to see, to realize, hey, let's rally together here, because it's not just you, it's not just me. It's a lot of people have had this history here. Let's get through it together, huh?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a good way to put it.
It got some good momentum, right? Like, so when people saw it happening, people got on board, like executive producers.
Because the number of deaths or bodies found were really low at the time when they announced it. It was like 200 something, and I want to say it's over the thousands now.
Yeah.
And people got involved, and funding poured in, and there was, you know what I mean? Like, I was telling Vaz a little bit pre-production that it's interesting to see that dynamic that he said right there of the momentum that it can create, for good, for healing, by telling people, look at you, we're all affected by this. I think one of the film that Richatney made was the thing that I heard, the one data point that I heard was, everybody on the reservation, they have someone a couple generations away that were there or were at least very much affected by these boarding schools. It's like, you see the numbers on cancer sometime, right? And it's like, you see the families that are touched by it. You're like, oh man, this specter's, everybody's been affected by it. And then you see the numbers on like residential schools, and it's like, none of us are immune. We have family members that were hurt, that were there, that, who knows how many of our cousins we could have had more of.
Right.
In our school as speakers, we would have had more of, had it not been for these institutions.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Like, it's been said numerous times that they were like, we don't want to teach our children this because they'll have to suffer at school.
I can remember a quick story on language. My grandmother helped raise us kids a lot. And after she got out, she tried to recommit herself to the language, and she spoke it fluently all the time to us in the house, in her trailer. And I'm the youngest, so I spent the most time with her. So when I went to pre-K off the reservation, I went to St. Peter's on Sanborn, there in the Walmore Road. And great folks, but I just remember going to pre-K and
great folks?
But and not understanding a whole lot about what even the language, you know what I mean? And a lot of it was the terms and the slang and the little nurturing terms that my grandmother used were all Skarura. Mm-hmm. And it was like I'm looking at them like just smiling, chubby Indian kid just smiling at them. And I remember just at the end of the day thinking, I'm not coming back here. I don't understand much of this.
There were words I didn't know weren't English words until I said hecha once in middle school, and everyone looked at me like I had three heads, and I was like, is that not an English? Like, I didn't know that wasn't English word. I was in middle school before I realized I was saying words that weren't English words.
I said it last week to my class. I just remember, it's so I mean, like the language wise, I remember my grandmother was almost like committed to it, like deathly committed to it. Be saying, you tried to take that away, you're not getting it. You know what I mean? Like I'm reclaiming it for my little family, my little group here, and to my detriment in some ways, but it's neat. It's neat that you see the resilience of some of these old timers that survived this.
Well, let me ask you this then. We'll just move right into it.
Okay.
What makes you, because we've talked a lot about hardships, a lot about trauma. It's pretty heavy stuff. How about we switch gears and ask ourselves what made us proud to watch from this movie?
Oh, man. Yeah, there was a lot, I thought. You want to go first? I'm always jumping in.
Oh, no.
I really like the old people in the gym when they start building their little bit of momentum together. And it was their sense of, I'm not alone. You got my back. Yeah. And they're even telling each other in that group, like, it's okay. You're safe.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm proud of folks when they step out of our comfort zone, our stoicism. I'm proud of when we're not afraid to heal. When we this is hard stuff, man. Let's acknowledge it. Let's put it. Let's put a face on the boogeyman and let's fight him together.
Yeah.
I like seeing that in this film, and I like that about our community. We've bonded together for some big things. We have, and I like the fact that it doesn't matter if you're Christian or you're traditional or whatever. People tend to have your back if you're facing a struggle.
Yeah.
And I saw that in this film. There were some really neat examples of them banding together, saying, "Look at this shared hurt. Let's have some shared solutions, guys. We're all gonna heal at our different paces, but we're in this together."
That seemed like it was the hardest and yet the most healing thing they could do. It's like we're all gonna talk. We're all gonna bring this out now. We're gonna put we're gonna shine light under the bed.
Yeah.
And get it out there.
Well, what I love, though, about you pointing that out is that that's not an exclusive thing to natives, though. Mm-hmm. It's something that just people in general, support groups.
Like an AA meeting.
Yeah.
Have kind like that, too, yeah.
Where it's just you find a way to band together and overcome a past trauma that's controlling your life.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I feel like it's harder for Native communities to have those moments, though, to let the guard down, because they've been holding it up for decades. Decades of holding it up like that.
Yeah. I got to be tough.
Yeah,
I got to be tough. I got to survive.
Everyone around you, hey, that's the pick up your lip, quit your whining, attitude, which is necessary in some instances, but not every instance.
And when you have that tough exterior, not really a healthy. It's not, in my opinion, it's not a super healthy way, because it's not really like grit. It's really more like, let's collectively act like it didn't happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's like, so you're toughen up here about this. It's like, oh, so you're saying Don't acknowledge it. Don't
Yeah.
hurt.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, fine, I won't. And it's not real. It's not really healing or anything, and it's not a path forward. The path forward is what they were doing in that gym, kind of empowering each other and saying, "You're safe right now," you know.
Yeah.
And then when some, if I'm sitting here and I have this hurt, right? I have this huge hurt, and I'm in a group of people that's like adult children of alcoholics, like AA, and then they have like support groups for other people who have problems. So if you're just an adult child of an alcoholic, you have certain things that you're more prone to, certain behaviors, and you might need a toolbox.
Right.
You might need some skills. You might need some supports that other folks don't need.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about these things. I feel like, and I know there are teams of people that are working on these huge issues in communities, community-wide. And, our good friend and your guys' cousin, Daryl, is right at the tip of the spear with some of this stuff. Mm-hmm. And with trauma and in trauma-informed counseling and community-based healing for generational trauma.
Shout out to the singing psychologist.
Yes.
Daryl
great,
Tonema.
great podcast, guys. The singing psychologist. Had a blessing and opportunity to host that a couple times and interview some folks and really deal with some real clinical ways to look at trauma and generational trauma. And something I found interesting, if I could steal some of their content, is that actually there is a physiological component to generational trauma that they can find and measure effects of trauma from one generation to another, like genetically. I don't know how. I don't know how they can quantify it. I can't begin to tell you. I failed biology in high school. But I will say that is interesting to me, that, biologically you pass on a predisposition to certain traumas from hurt that you endured, which is awful, which is horrible that someone can hurt you that bad, that something can traumatize you that much. It's just awful. And it calls into play like the idea. You talk about the idea of reparations. Like, how do you make this right legally? How do you restore someone to whole? How do you make someone whole that's been affected, not just them but generations after them, from something that was an institutional failure, a purposeful institutional failure, something that was designed to whitewash your identity,
right,
and change you. These are huge hurts, man. This is not new stuff. It's not groundbreaking, but it's like, this is the boogeyman that we're dealing with here. I was super proud to see communities, the telehealth and the accessing some of the help that the singing psychologist, that Daryl brings to them. And it's not just him, but there's others. There's a team of them. But around the country, there's communities stepping up saying, we want to heal from this. We don't even have the language to quantify what we've been through. We need the language. We need to understand better how we feel. We need to be able to express ourselves better. Then we can come up with a plan to heal. And so the conversation has to start somewhere.
So, Tin Man, hit me up with what you were proud to see in this movie.
So the fact that he made the movie at all, like he's starting to do a documentary on his own nation with his own people. Mm-hmm. I like the scene they had where they had like the red thread or the red yarn going from place to place. Like they had like a detective thing breaking apart. Yeah. And they had the one guy on the phone. It was like Father so-and-so. And I was just like, go to his house. Like my wife was like, put that guy with a camera in his face. That's what I want to see.
Yeah.
But I like seeing like the hunt that they put on. Like, no, let's dig in and find some answers.
A measurable map of where this hurt is coming from.
Yeah. It was kind of cool to see it all played out. Like they were like, hey, we're really gonna dig into this and we're gonna hunt it down. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of neat seeing like everybody like with a task at hand, ready to put some hands to work. I don't know. It was neat seeing like, hey, we're making a move. Like just it happening was like, this is cool that it's actually happening. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I would say that's what
was proud of at first when I'm watching. I'm like, oh, they're really gonna. It's not just stuff they happen to fall upon. It was like we're going to go do it ourselves,
Right?
And hunt it down. So I was like, okay, this is kind of cool.
Yeah, and there were moments where these people are doing tough things, like you said, calling the one priest. And the priest was like, yeah, this is so-and-so. And then she's like, I was at a residential school. He's like, oh, okay, I have to go. Okay,
Yeah,
bye.
yeah.
Have a good day. Bye. Okay, thank you, bye. Kind of like that's a tough thing to do, to confront a person that could be responsible for so much pain and so many lives. And that's just one little phone call, that someone's doing, but it's progress, It's, so for me, it's different because I'm forming these discussion points as I'm watching it. But, I was like, if I'm going to ask that question, I better start thinking about it as I'm watching it. So as a Christian, many things to be sad and upset about in this movie. But I am proud of the way that Rick leaned into his faith the way he did. Mm-hmm. And like I said, you could interpret that different ways. You could see it as him questioning his faith by asking certain questions or denying, well, I need more proof that that's my lineage right there. I need more proof than I'm going to go to the Vatican and talk to people. And he even talked with someone at the Vatican, right?
Yeah.
And
the guy that looks like the voice of Archer.
but he, he's talking to him about these things, and you can tell the guy's got no answers for him.
Yeah.
He's just like, I'm sorry. I mean, he just had nothing to.
Yeah, and the
offer
other thing
him.
was they had to take everything out of the church because they're worried that people were going to burn it down. Mm-hmm. The one scene they were bringing all like the decorations and stuff. They had to bring it all back in because they were like, yeah, people were burning all the churches down. We were worried ours was going to get burned down.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
and so to me, the way I saw him was a real strength in his faith to not let the evils of some people destroy his faith. Mm-hmm. And for him also to go to the Vatican, looking for answers, having the strength to tell these people, hey, here's what happened, and here's,
Yeah, that is the side of the story that they didn't need to put in, but it was a very poignant part of that story.
Mm-hmm. Like how, I hopefully never have to find out if I'm that strong enough in my faith that could happen to me, my family, my loved ones, my kids, and I'd still be,
right,
a believer of my faith,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it did make me proud as a Christian to see that people like that do exist.
Yeah.
And another side of me, as an Indigenous person, many things to be angry and upset about. But I am proud of the resiliency we see of these people and their openness. We've talked about all podcast long, their openness about this injustice and the braveness not just of the filmmaker to tackle the subject, but the people on screen who are open about their past and are trying to invite a better tomorrow, not just for themselves, but their next generations. And I'm proud that a native filmmaker, like Tin Man said, that to actually make this worldwide known documentary that's recognized on such a high level as being nominated for an Academy Award. So that makes me proud as well. So I think, in the face of past hurt and scars of the past, you're able to see, the opposite, the equal reaction of the resiliency of those people being able to hopefully continue to rise above it and continue to heal. Like we said, no theme, because it's pretty obvious, I think, what the the movie's portraying. But did you have a certain takeaway that you wanted to share from this movie? I can do mine first. I'll do mine first here.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah,
Cue us up.
that's a good way to.
Yeah.
So about the past pains and the scars of the past, don't let it dictate your life. Acknowledge the history. I think K-Max, you used the term, but find the hurt, acknowledge it. But what's your plan from there? So accept that it happened, but build from it. And this isn't just to our native listeners; it's to all listeners. For any past trauma, don't let it dictate what you do and how you behave and how you think and how you live. Build from it. Find your strengths and let your strengths dictate your life. We say it in the movie with the dancing. He got first place for what he was doing. Let your strengths support who you are and what you do and how you think. Focus on today and the future, and don't let those past pains continue to hurt your people through generations by affecting your own actions and behavior. So that's my biggest takeaway.
That's big, man. They deal with it, or it deals with you. You know what I mean? Like you acknowledge it, see it, get the healing, and then make good tracks going forward. You have a plan. Use your research. I like the way you said it. I like the way you said it better. If I can use that Jim Morrison line, I like the way I said it better. I like the way you said it better, man. Just have a plan but don't let it define you, right? I mean, I think that's such a big lesson from this is, yes, this is awful, and yes, it needs to be acknowledged, and yes, there needs to be some sort of justice. Yes, there needs to be some sort of accountability. Yes, to all of it. Huge yes, exclamation points. But the minute that you decide that this is who you are, your hurt is who you are, I feel like you're not choosing hope. That's my own opinion.
Yeah.
I feel like you can choose hope, choose the resources, choose the help, choose your community, choose your belief system, choose your family, and then see the good moving forward. Because daily you got that choice. You got that choice daily. Am I gonna acknowledge this? Maybe even fight for justice about this? Am I going to fight for acknowledgement and I don't know if it's reparations, but to be made whole as a people? Yeah, you're darn right. I'm going to advocate for that. But is it going to control? Am I going to use it as an excuse to not be the parent that I should be, to not be the accountable community member that I should be,
Right?
To not show up and be the best employee I can be to provide for my family? You know what I mean? I don't believe that any of this past hurt, excuses you from your role that you have in your community, the duty you have, the verse that you have, that the powerful play goes on and you may contribute a verse. Yes, you still have the contributor verse. You might, the verse that's played for you in the past or that played for your ancestors in the past, maybe it sucked. Call it what it is, and but you still have a verse to contribute. And there's a lot of power in that. There's a ton of power in that. Boz, I think I probably interrupted as I do.
Well, let's hear from the Tin Man.
No, I agree with all that. That was all well done, guys. Good job, everyone. There is a point at where the hurt needs to be numbed, and then that becomes the way you handle your situation, and it's going to lead to more hurt, suicide, or passing it down to the next generation if it isn't handled. So anyone out there who's listening, who's hurting,
go talk to that person that you need to. Go ask for help. Go clear the airs one way or another, because it's going to just eat at you. And it's going to be a shell of your former self. Or something bad can happen. But there are hurt people out there that need to hurt people, right? And so that's what we want to fix. That's what we would like to see. That's what they're trying to heal in this movie, and that's what I see at work all the time too. And so I deal with people, like maybe a sliver of their life, and a lot of times it's the worst moments of their life sometimes, and dealing with those situations is going to be difficult. And just being an ear for someone to talk to, or just a person that can get you to resources, might be my little lot that I have to help that person on the road to some type of recovery. And maybe you could out there, that could be you out there somewhere.
That's right.
That's what that's a good, I guess, my takeaway then.
Awesome.
Man, I love that.
Awesome
I
too,
love
man.
that. If I'll say this, we talked about this last season with certain things. If you let a documentary about these atrocities shape your belief system, your faith belief system, I would encourage you to dig further into the roots of, I'm not taking it lightly, but it'd be like me watching, Schindler's List and seeing an organized institutional machine of Nazi Germany and saying, this is a pretty efficient form of government. That means the same thing about this, about if I'm saying, if you're getting everything you know about the church or Christianity from this documentary, yes, acknowledge it. Yes, be pissed. Yes, dig further and say, how did this organization not hold their leaders accountable or hold the priests accountable? Yes, I'm not saying not to do that. I think that's important to do. And as a believer, as a Christian myself, I will lead that conversation to seek out and root out corruption in leadership positions, and even state-wide, federal-wide, worldwide, and local parishes or churches. I'm all for it. That accountability God's not against accountability. Almighty God isn't against accountability.
Right.
And he's not for controlling you and taking away your rights and taking away your identity. He made you exactly how you are. And he loves you exactly where you're at. And man, I guess I just encourage people to, you might have this really strong feeling, and I do, against these people, these monsters. But I guess I would just encourage people, and not being an apologist for any of this. I hope nobody mishears me. But my wish would be that people would dig further and say, well, how come there's a lot of people that still believe this in spite of all this? I'd love to show you. I'd love to show you how I still believe in God or in Christ and how it's changed my life. I'd love to share my story if anybody's interested, as an addendum to this conversation. Say, and yet you still, yes, and yet I still, because my God's never let me down or done these things. It's people.
Yeah.
People suck sometimes. Anyway, that's my takeaway.
So I wanted to reference a few movies that we've reviewed, a few chapters that we've reviewed, because I think there's some interesting connections. So earlier this season we had how movies ask ethical questions, and we showed the movie M, and I highlighted M's ability to present an argument fairly to an audience, where you show one side and then you show the other side and you let the audience decide from there, okay, have discuss what your thoughts are on this ethical situation right here. And I think it's pretty interesting in Sugarcane that we're missing a whole half of an argument here, because we're shown all the pain, but from what I understand, there's a lot of good people that were also in those residential schools that wanted to see goodness and wanted to do good by these people and help them and nurture people. And unfortunately, it gets overshadowed by all the bad things that happen. But I think it's important that we acknowledge that this is a movie from one perspective, and that I don't mean this in a mean way, but there is manipulation because it is a movie, even though it's a documentary. There is manipulation of the audience to think one way about these events in history. Because I think it would have been interesting to hear from people. I mean, we get maybe, I know one interview for sure where it was a non-native guy, like I mentioned, the janitor, that, you know, he's borderline like shaking, like recalling these events. And this is a guy that didn't know what he was doing. He didn't know what part he was participating in these events, and you could see clearly he's got his own trauma from this, and he's from the other side of it. So I can only imagine that he's not alone, that there were other people that were at these schools that weren't pure evil. So I just wanted to remind, you know, in relation to how we ask ethical questions and how we present ethical situations, I want to make sure that's noted, that, you know, we are only seeing one side of what happened. I don't know how you see the other side. I don't know how you present that. But,
Right. Yeah. Seriously.
But another thing I wanted to point out was in the first season, our chapter on religion in movies. And K-Max, you hit on part of it. That's why I said part of the segue was the human side of religion is something sometimes could use an overhaul.
Oh yeah.
And you see that in movies like Mother, where it's pointing out, you know, all these ritualistic things that you're doing, all this dogma, all these processes that you do in the name of God, needs a little bit of reform, it appears. And this is coming from three Christian men.
Yeah, right.
And then also, when you want to talk about the human side of it, you look at our other movie that we watched during the religion chapter.
The Night of the Hunter.
Yes, Night of the Hunter.
I'm like,
Yeah. I was waiting for him to say
Night of the
start
Hunter,
singing or something.
which the villain in that movie is basically what you see in Sugarcane.
Yeah.
Is this evil person twisting and contorting the base of this Christian faith to fit his own feelings and agenda. And in that movie, you can see clear as day, this guy is wrong and he is sick and he is twisted and evil.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing we see with the people that were involved in everything in the residential schools, all the wrongness that was with those.
Yeah, that's the song. Leaning. That's what it was. That's what it was. What's it?
Yeah, that's right.
So what do you guys say about those references back to those episodes?
Right on the money. And I have an atheist friend, a good friend. He's a client at the barber shop. Andrew's a good man, and he's a friend of the podcast, and he's
Kudos, friend.
Yeah, seriously.
Shout out to this friend.
You know, I really, really pick his brain about some of the episodes and the idea of that we put out there, these, you know, again, it's called depth perception. So it's like how three people perceive these things, right? So, you know, we always say we're three dads, you know, three providers, three Christian guys. And I always say, yeah, I'm not even good at any of those things. That's what I would say about myself. but it is what I am, and he enjoys the conversations. He enjoys them, and he feels like there's something for him to. He doesn't feel like he's on the outside looking in. You know what I mean? Which goes. It makes me feel great. And in the same way, like with this conversation, I always have like people from the community hear it and say, you know, I might not have the same belief system as these dudes, and I might have, you know, a belief system that's totally opposite, maybe. But I can relate to and I can respect the conversations they're having because they're honest perspectives. You know what I mean? They're they're vulnerable perspectives. Nobody's sitting here saying, "Yeah, tough." You know, yeah, that's what it is. This needed to be done, and this need, tough love. No one's saying that. And so that's why I always say my takeaway is also acknowledge it. Right? There needs to be some accountability. You certainly don't want anything like this repeating itself. You know what I mean? It's, but then also make your choice to say this isn't going to shape who I am. It's easier said than done, of course. Trauma doesn't work that way, just deciding that.
Right.
But a lot of times it is as simple as saying daily, I'm gonna choose hope. I'm gonna choose joy. I'm going to put my head down and do the healing, get the help. Yeah. Anywho.
One more movie that it relates to, and it appears more and more each episode that Hell or High Water is is the staple episode of the season. Season 2 preview was right when we watched that one, but the whole idea of I forget their names again. I did this the other episode. I forgot. There's Tanner was the bad one. Toby. Yeah. Toby. I think it was the exact same order that I remembered them in too. But Toby, his whole motivation is to stop the generational hurt of poverty and make sure that his kids don't have to feel it. So confronting that poison, stopping it there, stopping that cancer, and making sure the next generation of his family lives in more wealth, both emotionally and financially. So, all right. Well, that's all I got for this episode.
It's heavy. It's heavy.
Yeah.
And I want to go back to just one real quick, what Tin Man said. If you're that elder that's still dealing with that, if you're the child of the elder, if you are someone who was maybe affected by, maybe you were hurt by someone who was hurt, reach out, access your church, access your people that you can count on, your chief, your clan mother, your community member, your family, these positive places, sing, dance, pray, lean on your belief system, find authentic helps, not someone who's going to exploit you, take advantage of you, embarrass you, marginalize you. They're out there. There's people who care a great deal. Again, we're a podcast, but I know the three dudes at this table care a great deal about you guys in our community and outside of our community. We care a lot. So you can never say, well, no one cared about me. Yeah, nope, you're lying. We do. I do, even if these guys don't.
I mean, that again, though, I think that sentiment is sent not just to our native neighbors in our community, but our non-native neighbors in our larger community. If there's pain affecting you, know that there's a people out there that want to help and want to be there for you.